Morning, guys. That's me. I'm Tulsi, running for president.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Fourth-term Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, a Democrat, is attracting an interesting cross-section of voters as she campaigns in Iowa, trying to figure out how to place in the caucus there.
Hi, how are you?
I love your military background. I have military all over my family. Let's bring these boys home. Let's stop these wars.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He's a Republican, and he loves that she served in the military so much that he promised to cast his vote for her. Being a decorated service member isn't just a part of Gabbard's past, it's also a major part of who she is now. She served in the Army National Guard for 16 years, and this week, Gabbard's in Indonesia finishing her Guard training.
I'm grateful for that privilege of being able to serve in this way. Some people are saying, well, gosh, your campaign's going to take a hit. And, if that's the case, so be it.
So you're not worried about that right now?
I'm not worried about it. I'm focused on continuing my service and doing so in this way during this deployment.
This isn't the first time she's left her elected job to serve.
It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I love how you support our troops.
In 2004, she resigned from the Hawaii state legislature to volunteer as a medic in Iraq. Foreign policy isn't the top issue of the Democratic Party, but it is for Gabbard. It's literally what she's running on.
I went and deployed to Iraq and enlisted in the military, believing the lie that was told to so many of us, to the whole country, about why it was necessary for our country to start this war in the first place. The lie that we were told by politicians, by our president, by leaders in his cabinet about how it was in our country's national security interest to go and topple this brutal dictator in Iraq who was working with Al-Qaeda, who had weapons of mass destruction, and how that posed a threat to the American people. We as service members were betrayed.
So I'm pleased to introduce Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
On most other issues, she sounds like any other Democrat. She supports tackling climate change by funding renewable energy sources, putting the screws to Wall Street, and pushing a single-payer option.
I support passing Medicare for all because we've got to make sure that every single person in this country who's sick or in need of care is able to get that care, regardless of how much or how little you have in your pocket.
Where she aligns with President Trump is wanting to bail on conflicts on foreign soil, like the one in Afghanistan.
Now, there's an issue that's central to all of these that I think it's important to address, and that is the cost of war. Our foreign policy is inseparable from our domestic policy because as we're talking about the needs of our people, that requires resources, that requires investment. We as taxpayers are spending $4 billion every month in Afghanistan.
She shocked people in 2017 when she played diplomat and flew to Syria, where she met with President Bashar al-Assad, a despot who's brutalized his people.
Whatever you think about President Assad, the fact is that he is the president of Syria. In order for any peace agreement, in order for any possibility of a viable peace agreement to occur, there has to be a conversation with him.
Do you believe that Assad was behind the use of chemical weapons that he used against his own people?
There have been a lot of different chemical weapons attacks, and I think they have been perpetrated by the Assad government, as well as other terrorist groups and other actors on the ground.
Sure,
so the tough questions that I ask come from the understanding that I will do all that I can to not allow a single one more of my brothers and sisters in uniform to be used in a war being waged on false pretenses or to put their lives at risk unnecessarily in another regime change war.
When you say false pretenses, though, U.S. officials determined that Assad did use these chemical weapons against his own people.
Didn't we hear that about Iraq?
Right.
We heard that from U.S. officials. We heard that from our Secretary of State.
My
We heard that
question
from
for
people
you,
in
though,
the
is
UN.
you sit on the Homeland Security Committee, you sit on the Foreign Affairs Committee in Congress, you take in information from U.S. officials. Do you believe that information when you receive it?
It's not a matter of, well, do you believe? Do I sit there and believe what someone's telling me on face value? No. And it's the responsibility that I feel I have to my fellow Americans, to my brothers and sisters in uniform, to not accept anything at face value and to always dig for the truth.
Gabbard's pro-military, anti-interventionist view has helped her amass more than $6 million in her war chest. But she's a long-shot candidate, one who's already being primaried in her congressional re-election race. Plus, she has a little less than a week to qualify for the next debate.
Is that a moment when you have to decide if you're going to stay in the race or not?
No. Obviously, being on that debate stage is an incredible platform to speak to millions of people across the country, but it's not the only platform or the only way to continue forward. This campaign is not about me. It's about the kind of change that we need to bring about. So we're going to forge ahead and continue on.